Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of What the Effie. I am super excited, as I always am, but even more so because today I have Casey. I have Casey Gregersen, and you're going to find a lot of value from this man. Casey, thank you very, very much for coming on.
Yeah, you're very welcome, Effie. I'm excited. I've been excited about this one for a couple weeks now since you first reached out.
Well, me too. Me too. So let's jump in. As you can see next to Casey's name, he's got Bighorn Capital Fund Manager. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But I'm going to start where I almost always start, and that is just to get a very brief idea of you as a person before you entered real estate. Okay, where did you grow up? How many did you have siblings? If so, what was that like? Just very briefly. And what kind of work were you doing before you jumped into real estate?
You bet. I grew up in Sheridan, Wyoming, so not many people have have invested in Wyoming. That's actually our core market. But I grew up there. I had two brothers. I had a half brother that was about 9 years older than me, and then a really close brother that was like 2 years. And we shared a room, and we were pretty tight growing up, and still are to this day.
Is that second brother that you're close to younger than you or older?
Yeah, he's 2 years younger. Yep. So we
Nice.
play. I mean, yeah, we grew up. Now I have four boys actually right now in my family. So I getting to see how they interact, and now remembering why it drove my parents nuts because we were always fighting and we're competitive and into sports, and we were always arguing about something. And now my brother's actually an attorney, and I ended up becoming an engineer. So that was my degree. I had a master's in petroleum engineering, and
Okay.
I took a job for Shell in 2011. I interned and I went full time in 2012, and I actually worked that job for almost 12 years before I left that as my full time W-2.
Okay, so petroleum engineer. I know a thing or two about that because my ex-husband was a mining and petroleum engineer.
Really, what school
So
was he?
the
Did he go?
University of British Columbia,
Really?
UBC.
Okay.
We fare from Canada, or he did. We both fared from Canada, but we split up. Anyhow, so back then it was a two-phase degree, mining and petroleum. And
Mm.
mining and petroleum, for those of you who don't know, are not restricted to U.S. We're a big market, but it's a
Yeah.
worldwide thing. So that was great, lots of exposure. And those two allowed him to go to the Harvard Business School because of the uniqueness and importance of those two degrees. So, yeah, I know a little bit about petroleum engineering, and you stayed with one company for 12 years.
Yeah, you're right. That is pretty rare in the oil and gas industry. People kind of jump around, but I was fortunate enough to get hired on with a major early on, and they had some of the best training and education to go through. And yeah, and then I could tell you more of the story later, but I kind of realized that I had a pretty easy path to an easy W-2 income that I could make very predictable, and I could still invest in real estate at the same time. So that's what I mean, early on, I maybe thought I'd go get all my training. Like a lot of my peers, they went to Shell, they got all their training, they got all the train, like they got trained up because like unbelievable training program. Like they literally sent us over, check this out, for two different stints. So two different trainings in the Netherlands, right? So we flew over the Netherlands first class for like 4 weeks. All the guys we worked with, they just called it a big boondoggle, right? But we went there, we learned a lot, they trained us, but it was really good training and a really fun experience. But a lot of people just did that, and then they passed the training that's called round one and round two, and it's a very rigorous test. But once we were done with all that, then a lot of people would just take that certificate and jump ship, and because all the other smaller companies were like, we want to hire those guys if they made it through that training program, because then they didn't have to train them, then they could just
Yeah,
go plug them in.
yeah, yeah, I understand. A little bit like, yes, a lot of countries and companies do that. Totally get it. And it is an excellent W-2 for income. So a lot of times people say, hold on to your W-2. And that is your superpower because of the fact that you can afford to fall on your face, as we all do when we first start real estate. So um, you started real estate when you were still with Shell.
Correct.
How long ago?
I started, I actually did it before, believe it or not. So I graduated from the University of Wyoming. Actually, another fun fact is I did my undergrad in Billings, Montana, and I was fortunate enough I played college football. So I had a
Oh,
scholarship or it was a partial football scholarship and partial academic scholarship there. So I was there for 5 years. And
what
then,
was your position?
ooh, you got to guess, Effie.
Oh, I'd say quarterback, but I don't know.
Quarterback? Ding, nailed it. First one. Yeah,
Yay! All right,
good
sorry
guess.
about that.
That's okay. Yeah.
Very
So,
nice.
yep. So played football for 5 years, and then I went to grad school up in Laramie, or down in Laramie, I should say. Went from Billings, Montana, down to Laramie, and yeah, that's actually when I bought my first rental property. Was while I was going to school, still in undergrad, or it was in my master's program, and bought my first rental property there.
Nice, very nice. And it was that a rental property that you uh, resided in and rented, hacked out, and had other
Yeah, that's right.
students
I was
living in there?
Yeah, that was 2010. So before house hacking was as popular as it is now. Yeah, it was a house hack. And the coolest thing is my dad actually helped co-sign with me because at that point I was 24 roughly. And I was a college student making $1,000 a month stipend. It was like 1,200 bucks at the time.
Yep,
But I was able to my cost of living went way down because my roommates paid my rent and my dad
yep.
co-signed.
Hmm.
And then we bought the house for 150,000 and we only needed about 10,000 down. So my dad actually used some of my college savings that I hadn't used because of some of my scholarships. And we used that
Nice.
10,000, call it my seed money, 10,000 and a co-signing, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. So your first venture was actually co-living before co-living was coined.
Yes. Yes. I've been talking about that all the time. I really want to get into more co-living because I've been doing it for years in a college town like that. And it's like, yeah, I never called it co-living, but it's just like it was a way more cost-effective way to rent out a property. You just rent it out by the room.
Oh, totally. I mean, come on, you could do that right at the beginning, like you were, or you could do it as a senior when your spouse has passed and you've decided, hey, we've got 4 bedrooms and the 2 other rooms. I'm bringing in a whole bunch of my dude friends, whatever. You can do co living throughout all of life. So
Mm-hmm.
it is, and if you know the member, if they're all retired, you know what they're up to. If they're all in grad programs, you know their hours. You know
Mm-hmm.
that no even talking during certain hours,
Mm-hmm.
and no partying unless they're undergrads. I hope you didn't have any undergrads.
Yeah, we had some, but I mean, I knew them at
I
least.
love that model, but I say you go for PhDs. And if
Yes,
you have to water it down, you go to masters, but don't touch the undergrads.
don't touch them. You know what? I agree. Those are the best students or best tenants for sure. But what we do is all those undergrads, they all have to have co-signers. So I have parents with great credit on every single one of my leases. Perspective, when COVID hit, I had a portfolio in Dallas Fort Worth and one up in Laramie, Wyoming. I was fighting and trying to get everybody to pay in Fort Texas, and I mean, thank goodness I wasn't in a place like California or New York. But in Wyoming, did not miss a single rent payment. And that university was shut down for like 18 months, but all the parents were on the leases and they cared about their credit and they
Mhm.
made it work.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's what you have to do with the undergrads. You've got to go after the parents. You got to call them and say, "Hey, do you guys smoke weed? Because your son is smoking, and he said it's okay with you guys." You know. And with the PhDs or the masters, you just go directly to the program director, and you go, "Hey, I need to talk to you about one of your students," and they just that's it. So yeah, but they both have responsibilities. One is more adult and the other one is cared for by adults. But that's cool. That's very, very nice. Good for you. Great
Yes.
start. Great
Yep.
start. All right. So you had now graduated and you were working. Uh, did you sell the place that you and your dad had bought, or were you of mind that, this thing makes money? I think I'll have somebody manage it and continue and start my portfolio. What did you do? How did you look at
Yes. It's almost like you know the story, but I know you actually don't, Effie. That was exactly
it? No, I just
what
know I just know
you
how
know how
we
we think.
think.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
especially once I know that you're, a petroleum engineer, and you already told me that your brother is a lawyer. I can't, and yeah,
Yeah, good
just
guess.
good guesses.
Yep. Good educated guesses. So what I did was I moved out. Fortunately, I had a kind of an easier transition. My brother, who I just mentioned, he was now going to law school. So he moved in behind me and he lived there for about 3 years. So at least I had somebody I trusted to be able to look at it and man, it helped me boots on the ground, right? Couldn't be
Yeah.
better than that.
Yeah.
And then when my brother moved out, though, I was still making some money, and I was charging about $500 a bedroom. My brother, I only charged like 200 for him to help me. So when he moved out, I'm like, all right, now I've been doing this. I think I can keep it going. Now I get an extra $300 because I filled his room with a full paying person, and I just kept renting it. So that was probably 2014 when my brother moved out, and I just kept it going. And then I just put people in there, and then the cool thing is how I always tell the story of the second one. And I just had this realization the other day when I was telling the story that like eventually my dad was like, hey, it'd be great if I could get off that loan. He's like, I'm not like going to make you do it, Casey. I'm your dad. But if you could get me out, that would be great. So I also at that time had went and read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then that took me down a whole nother rabbit hole of all these other real estate education books. And I'm actually working in oil and gas. I'm like, and yeah, again, you might relate to this or understand like, when you're up, you know what? You'll love this, Effie. I was out in Alberta, Canada, like driving all those back lease roads because I was working for Shell up in Fox Creek and in Grand Prairie and places like that.
Yep.
And I'll never forget it. Actually, I remember I first read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We landed in Calgary. I was driving up to the location and I started listening to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And like, I'm having all these things are clicking, right? But one of the biggest things that clicked was that first house that I still had. Right before reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I was thinking, hey, I'm making a little bit of extra cash flow each month and I get some write-offs each year. And that was about as far as I looked into it. But I hadn't really thought about, wow, that's an asset. And I'm using good liabilities. I'm using good debt to buy it. So at that point, I'm like, how do I do more of this? So what I did was I'd actually done some small improvements to that house and had let real estate do what real estate does over time. So about 5 years had passed. And I just basically went back to the same bank. It was US Bank. And I'm like, hey, I want to refinance this and get some money out. So they were actually able to refinance my loan. And I was able to pull out $50,000. And with that $50,000, yeah, not only I got the $50,000, but I was actually able to, now I had a good W-2. So I didn't need my dad anymore. Got a new loan. So he was happy and excited for me. And then I took that $50,000 and I went and bought the second one. And then it was a house in Laramie. This one was actually on market, and back when you could still buy good deals on market. It was right by the campus of the University of Wyoming, and I won't go too deep into the story. I can if you want, but this house was like I could literally I'm a football player, so I'll use the football analogy. I could take a football and hit the campus. It was that close to the University of Wyoming.
Nice.
So great location, way under rented. They were renting this thing for $700, $730 a month is what they were paying. But I knew I could actually, yeah. Exactly. And there was a basement with its own access. So I knew that I could actually add a unit in the basement. So when it's all said and done, I used that $50,000, got a construction loan at the bank, right? This was one of my other first big things was I went and started talking to small banks and building relationships with them. This was the very first one. So I went to the small bank, got a construction loan, used that $50,000 and did the construction loan, fixed it up. And when this is nuts. Check out these numbers. When I was all done, I went from $700 a month to now $2,600 a month in rents because I had 2 units, and it cash flowed. Check this out. By the time I paid my mortgage, all my expenses, insurance, taxes, and everything, I was self-managing it, but I could have still afforded a manager if I wanted. But I was making $1,000 a month of cash flow, free cash flow. And I literally almost out of thin air. I mean, I'd worked hard and built equity, but I didn't have to come up with any more cash. I literally used the $50,000 and created $1,000 of cash flow. So at that point, it's like,
wow,
let's do more of this.
Yeah, you saw it then. You were like, okay, I'm making money at Shell, but I'm working for it. I put this money to work for me, and I'm getting a cool 1K net. All right. It kind of gets the wheels going that, let me see, how many of these would I need before I'm getting my salary replaced and I have all my time to do whatever I want? It kind of does lead you to thinking along those lines. And especially when you see the appreciation for you to be able to take out, $50K in 5 years and have that loan just in your name. So now you're more established. You're getting the construction loan. Yeah, that's good.
Oh yeah, it just everything just took off from there
So
for
now
sure.
you had two. Do you still have them?
Yep, I actually have both those
Yay!
properties still to this day. Yep.
Listen, Casey, I want to tell you just very briefly about the very first property I negotiated. Between the ages of 9 and 11, my mother dragged me around in Vancouver because she couldn't speak English at all and forced me to go into these houses and look at everything. And I was like, oh, but after a while, I was like, ooh, I'm having fun. I really enjoyed it. Negotiated the first purchase. We bought 3 properties in 3 years. And the very first one we negotiated, I had to negotiate because they didn't like us talking Greek in front of them. They thought that wasn't cool. So we did I had the permission to go to, it was priced at 25,500. And my mom said, try not to go over 25. I said, okay, fine. I got them down to 24.5. And they were like all upset. And my mom was like, holy shit, she's blowing it. Well, we got it. That house, many decades later, just to encourage you to hold on to those ones, sold when the estate was being liquidated for 2.3 million.
Wow. Over how many years? That was
I'd say 5 decades.
wow. But 24,000 sold for over 2 million.
24,500. And let's not forget that they collected rent the whole time.
Yes. Wow. Wow. That not too many people can have are actually able to tell that story over that much time and prove it, right? Most of our
Yeah.
stories are over 10, if you're lucky, over 10 years, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe 3 years, but that is unbelievable.
Well, that is what you call generational wealth. Unfortunately, my brother and my sister and I fought like dogs. Everything had to be liquidated. Okay, that's unfortunate. But when you're looking at holding on to these, try and remember that story. Because
Mhm.
people think that, oh, I've held it for 10 years and I made, like 100,000 or whatever. They're thinking, wow, no. And all those future years of collecting rent that you're giving up. So buy and hold means just that. You should hold it. So I'm very happy to hear you say that you have held both onto both of those.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
4 kids. Keep going and put them, like tag them in your own mind. And when they're 60 or 70 or 80, they can decide whether they should liquidate or whether they should pass it on to their kids.
hmm Yeah. It was one of my favorite things I did actually is my oldest son. I haven't done it for the younger ones yet, but they're starting to get up. They're actually asking about it. My next son down is asking. But yeah, I got him a house that I kind of earmarked for him, and I wrapped it up, and put the address, and every time it's up in Laramie, so every time we go up to Laramie, we go drive by it, we look at it. I try to involve him. I'm trying to show him a little bit of the property management because once he's getting close, he's 11. I want him to start managing the tenants and taking the calls, and like him to actually truly take
He's
ownership of it.
11. I'm sorry. I started at 9. By the time we were 11, I was like, you know, interviewing tenants. And they'd be like, okay, well, we haven't talked about pets. Let's just keep it quiet. We'll just sneak a cat in. And I'd be going, cat, no cat,
Mhm.
because my mom would be right there, tell them this, tell them that, and before long I'd say, Mom, cat. That means, meow, so she'd hear cat and she'd go, no, no cat, no cat, and they'd go, I thought you couldn't understand English. And I'm like, oh, she understands it when it comes to renting our properties.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyways, yeah, encourage him, make him rake the leaves, make him, take ownership. It's not too young. It's not too young if you're forced, meaning you have no choice.
Yeah.
You have no choice. And it really changed our lives. And we never lived wealthy. They refused to live wealthy. So they lived dirt poor. I have a road bike. I have a nice house. I didn't live there that way because my husband went to the Harvard Business School. Go from that to some of the wealthiest people in the world. You can't exactly say, no, I don't need a new pair of shoes. Anyhow, how fascinating for you.
Yes.
So now we've heard the first two stories, and I understand that you usually talk about three. I heard somewhere that he's got a story of three houses. Are those the first two?
Ooh, I think it's the bigger three for me is building out three different companies. So I've always, and I could kind of walk through there. So you know what? The first one I've started to touch on is property management. So I was managing those couple, and then I was like, again, backing up, I learned how to do it with my brother, and then I learned how to do it myself. And this is another pivotal moment. So everyone will remember this, where they were when COVID hit, right? And we were locked down in our houses. We couldn't go anywhere. Well,
Yep.
what people don't know, or people who are in oil and gas also know this, that's when oil went negative. And it was a rough time at the same time. So we're locked down. And the other kicker with me is our company is laying off. This was a big function of Shell in the US. It was called our unconventionals business. We were laying off 40% of that company. And the rest of them had to either repost for jobs like I did, or they could take a package and leave. So we're literally at home. My job has been dissolved. We are now applying for new jobs. So it's kind of cool because we didn't really have to do much because we were trying to wait and see if we got a new job. And we're locked down. So while most people were maybe watching Netflix or binge watching, I read a book called 4-Hour Workweek. And in 4-Hour Workweek, it talks about a lot of cool concepts, but one of the biggest ones is having virtual assistants. And that's another thing that clicked for me. I'm like, okay, because at the time I've got like 10 to 20 properties, and they're spread out from Dallas, Fort Worth.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is 2020. I've got about 10 to 20 of them. And I've got some in Dallas, Fort Worth I'm managing, some up in Laramie or around Wyoming that I'm managing, but I'm doing it all virtually. Like I'm in Houston and I'm not there. And I'm like, well, why can I not train a virtual assistant to do exactly what I'm doing? If I can manage it from here, why can't somebody in Mexico or Pakistan or across the world do it? So that's what I did. And also it helped being in corporate America and Shell being a very process driven company. I'm just like, let's go write an SOP. So while I'm locked down during COVID and everybody's watching Netflix, I'm working early in the morning and during the day, and I'm writing out everything I do for property management. I'm recording Loom videos, and I'm just documenting everything I do. And then I go recruit and find a virtual assistant, bring them in, hire them, train them. First one was terrible and had a fire, and he was taking advantage of me. But luckily I hired two. Second one was awesome.
Okay. So I'm going to stop you because now you're getting into some new territory for me. And I think I personally might be able to learn something. I think it's genius that you realize, wait, I'm doing it long distance. Somebody else can do it long distance. Mm-hmm. I've got that part figured out. I'm not afraid to go to other states and that sort of thing. But I have yet to hire a virtual assistant because of the trust issue. So tell me what you mean the first one took advantage of you. I mean, I'd like to know, what did you watch for? What was your learning curve? How do I get over that part? I know it's a podcast for everybody, but sorry, guys, this is for me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, this would be great for everybody. So, yeah, initially that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, how much do you trust these? Actually, I don't know if this is really ironic because I'm doing my 2-day workshop, and Steve Rosenberg is coming to speak as one of my guest speakers. I met Steve at this time because I was in the book. They talk about, I think, going through like Pakistan and some in the Philippines for VAs. And I'm like, okay, well, let's go into Bigger Pockets and see if there's anybody who's doing this for real estate. And Bigger Pockets had some forums and some conversations about using them virtual assistants out of Mexico. And they're like, when you find them in Mexico, they're on your time zone, they understand your culture, and they're just a little bit better fit. And what I found out to this day, they're some of my best customer relations because they can speak better than somebody. It's more receptive, right? Somebody in the US is more receptive to talk to somebody in Mexico versus Pakistan or wherever it is across the world. So I read this blog. I actually called Steve and I'm like, hey, how did you do this? Like, tell me more. Cause I had the same question.
You had already met him.
I hadn't met him. Actually, I'd seen him on the forum and he had like left his number or an email. And I'm like, Steve, how are you doing this? And he called me, which was 2020. And Steve's like, he's a high level coach right now. So it was really cool. I was going to
ask you how you met him, but you just reached out.
Yeah, I just reached out. And at that time he was growing. I mean, at first I'm like, why? Why? I can't believe he answered the phone. But he was also growing his virtual assistant business and helping recruit for other people. Because ultimately I paid him as a headhunter to find the first one. But Yeah. So I
Okay,
asked him
the first
though.
one didn't work out.
Yes. Yeah. I paid for two, fortunately. But yeah, so to kind of answer your question, I had the same ones you did. I'm like, wait, but how do you trust them? What can you give them? I was very skeptical like you. And he's like, they're great. And if you train them right, he's like, the cool thing is you train them, give them the SOPs, and then they go iterate and they own the SOPs and then they iterate them. And then they're in charge of future training. He's like, that's what we've done. And now he was scaling his property management at the time as well.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yes.
So, what was wrong with the first one? And
Yeah.
did
So,
you worry about the trust? Because they're dealing with they can mess your business up.
yes, absolutely. And they're interfacing with clients, and he was doing a lot in tenants. So one of the things I learned was, yeah, he was just basically taking advantage of the time. He wasn't working the whole time. He wasn't available when I said, and that's probably the most common thing I hear from, I would say two things to be reserved or that can be a pain in the butt with VAs is they're always having connectivity issues. And sometimes you're like, is there really another lightning storm or really another flood or whatever's going on? But they do have, it is also third world country. Sometimes they don't have the predictability we have. So sometimes it's true, but they aren't always the most reliable to have a good connection. Right. So that was one thing, but also just, yeah, sometimes they're just working for several other people. And that's where I took advantage. Is this guy was, I think, definitely working other jobs, wasn't clocking in, here's how I fixed it. So they have this cool app now called Time Doctor. And honestly, there's probably way better ones now. I started this one like 5 years ago because I reached back out to the headhunter because I paid about $2,500 to find these guys, these two of them. Right. And then I reached out and like, hey, I'm struggling with this guy. Like, this is what I'm going through. She's like, you could try this. So Time Doctor it's pretty cheap. Doesn't cost that much, a monthly fee. It's basically screen recording. It takes screenshots randomly of their screen while they're working. And it takes them throughout and they clock in so you can track their hours and pay them. It's like a time clock, but it also screenshots their screen every once in a while. And you can go back and see whatever they're doing. So it has great accountability if you ever need to go back.
Good.
So
Yeah.
that was my solution to that guy. Ultimately, I found out that guy was taking advantage of me. In my other VA, luckily they kind of shed some light on, hey, I wouldn't trust this guy. They're all kind of like I was recruiting from this. Yeah, they all know each other, right? So she kind of helped me too. But she was like unbelievable. And she was like cared about my business and she changed it all for me. I'm like, now I have faith. This can actually work. And she actually started recruiting all the future ones because she knew other people in that community that were like, heck yeah, I'll work from home and make $550 US an hour. That'll change their life.
Yeah. Nice. I'm glad to hear it. And that's awesome.
So today I'll fast forward it. I just hired the next ones, built out SOPs, and it's just this really cool too. Because right now, today we manage 400 units that I own. Some of them we own with partners.
You said 400?
400, yeah.
Yep. Oh, good for you, Casey.
So, thank you. Yeah, so I've kept a lot of them.
There's lots I didn't know about you.
Yeah.
I didn't know that either. That's awesome.
Yes. And we just took down our latest 100. This is literally just happened yesterday. I was out. I do a lot of my phone calls. The only way I squeeze it in is sometimes while I'm working out, I do a phone call. So yesterday I'm running outside talking to my COO and he's like, hey, I just got done with our property management meeting because we just bought a 120 unit. And in this asset, this is absolutely mind blowing. They're managing 120 units off of like paper leases. It's not electronic. I mean, they didn't like handwrite them, but they printed them out and signed them. And they've got this big filing cabinet in the back of the office with all the leases. And they're still taking payments only through check, cashier's check, and Venmo. I'm like, you guys don't have a payment system? And I'm like,
but at least they've got Venmo.
That's true. You're right. Literally, that was kind of what I thought too. I'm like, oh, at least they're like only 5 years behind the rest of the world. But like 10 years ago, I started. No, I guess it was 10 years ago. I started using Buildium to manage all my property management and have my tenants communicate. But anyway, I was just blown away that people are still doing this and frustrated, but also optimistic and happy because I'm like, how many other assets are being run like this to where all I got to come in here and do? Because typically when I buy these big multifamilies, I'm doing value add and using construction, which is one of the three things we could talk about later. But this one we just bought, it's pretty stabilized. They've got a little bit of vacancy, but it doesn't need a bunch of work. But all we're doing, and to circle back to my call with my COO, he just got done having a meeting with the new team and being like, hey, here are the expectations. Here's how we run this management system. Here's our order of how you make calls and what's an emergency. And he's kind of running these couple boots on the ground people that we inherited with the property, like running them through it. But I just was like, I was so excited because it's like we've now built this awesome system to where we can go and acquire a big asset like that, start to onboard them into running a system correctly and using technology and pretending like it's actually 2025 with all these great softwares we have out here and applying it. So you can see how excited I am. Like, this is something that I'm excited to do more and more of, is be able to find assets like this and bring in our back end virtual assistants, our software, leverage our boots on the ground contractors, and then continue to take over bigger assets.
When did you start doing multifamily?
Yes, that, you know what? I mean, we'll call that first one. That second property, I was a single family. I turned it into a duplex. But then like 3 years ago, I bought a 3.
I'd say 4 or more.
4 more. Myself. Yeah, exactly.
Or 5, I'd say.
Yeah, I'll just give you the quick of it. Like 2018, I bought a 3-plex. But I would say 2020 or 2021, I bought a 14 unit. That was my first really big one. Nice. And then about a year or two later, I bought a 66 unit, which we still own. It was a big value add one. And that was the first really large one. And again, complete mindset shift of, wow, I bought these at like $50,000 a door. And I put about $20,000 a door, like per door into it. So I'm all in at like 70. And these things are appraising for like 100. And I'm like, 6 times 66. And you look at all the equity you're creating. You're like, why am I doing all these single family flips when I could go do one of these? And like, all my contractors are at the same spot. I can order all my materials. I can manage it. It took about 12 months to do, but
Where was that?
It was in Casper, Wyoming. Close, not too far where I grew up.
All right. Cool.
Yep. And then I did a 45 unit a year later, and then a 23, and then this 120. So that's kind of how we've staged up into over the last several years.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Unfortunately for me, I've still stayed pretty small, but that's okay. I still have many years ahead of me.
Yes.
So we are intending on growing in a couple of different ways, but
yes.
I think that's pretty cool that you went into multifamily like that, and that you still have virtual assistants.
Yes. And to be clear, I still love the single family stuff. We're still doing those deals all the time. I had, as I mentioned, I kind of had another mindset shift of, wow, I could do 66 or 120 at once. But those are big, long projects, right? They pay off a lot. That's the long-term wealth, which you can really build. But what pays my bills day to day is the fix and flips, the novations, the sub twos, these little house, because we do a ton of direct to seller marketing, which is the other kind of 2 ones, and we can cover whichever one you want. But I built a direct to seller company, and then I built a construction company to kind of have the three parts of the vertical.
Wait. So outline them again. Your very first one was your
property management in-house.
Property management, which you still are continuing.
Yep.
And then you said, what was the second one? Fix and flip?
Yeah. The next, and I'll give you the quick highlights of the second piece that I built out was direct to seller, because I was finding deals on the market, probably like a lot of other people in 2011, 2010, all the way to until 2019 is when I was looking at, here was the realization I had then, Effie, was like, I was buying from wholesalers in like the Dallas Fort Worth area, and we were trying to fix and flip and doing some projects there. And I'm like, but I was looking at my numbers in DFW and compare it to Wyoming, and I was getting way, way better numbers in Wyoming. And I'm like, I want to buy more. Yeah. And there's a lot of variables. Biggest are like insurance and taxes are way lower. And there's just not near as competitive in Wyoming. And we could go into a lot of detail there, but I love Wyoming because it's my niche market, that very little competition and still a lot of retail demand and not enough housing, right? It's a supply and demand thing.
Okay. Yep. That would make a big difference.
Yes. Yeah.
So when did you start the direct to seller team?
Yes. 20. Yeah. So it was around 2021, 2020 or end of 2020. So there were no wholesalers in Wyoming, because I'm like, I want to buy, how do I get more deals in Wyoming? How do I do more of these? But there were none. So I had reached out to a couple of guys that I had actually met in Midland, Texas, when I used to live in Midland. I actually met them presenting on the Burr strategy in like 2017 or something. I'd met them, and we had this long conversation in the parking lot after the RIA, after the meetup, and they were talking about, hey, we want to start this marketing company, and we want to start finding leads. And I was like, man, that's awesome. I love it. So I just kind of stayed in touch with them. So I reach out to them when I'm ready to wholesale. I'm like, hey guys, how do I set up my CRM, and how do I hire a team, and how do I take in the calls and do direct mail, all these things? They're like, we actually have a program. We're like doing this training thing. And I'm like, oh, I don't really want to go pay for some big program. But I kept talking to them. I invested $11,000,
Wow.
and they showed me completely, like they helped me build out my wholesale company from
Nice.
the CRM to direct mail to like, it was my first mastermind I actually ever joined.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. It was 11 grand, and I had to close a total of half of a deal to pay for that. Like, I think my first couple deals, I made like 20 or 30K, and it was like,
nice.
Boom. And yeah, nice. And now today it's called wyohouses.com. That's our direct to seller company. And yeah, we now, I mean, there's months where we're putting out
about the team. How big is it? What's it look for, and where can they reach you again on that?
Yeah. So wyohouses.com. If you guys ever want to check out the website and see how I built it, I really made it feel, I've evolved to now too, where it's like, I want to be Wyoming's number one home buyer, right? Like, cause there's not a whole lot of competition, and no one does marketing like we do. So we do SEO. We're doing all the digital stuff from Facebook to Google pay-per-click. But our probably bread and butter, and it has been since 2021 when we started, is direct mail. Direct mail still crushes it and always gives us great returns. And as far as, so those are kind of the marketing channels that do really well for us. And then now, because we've been established and doing this for a while, a lot of referrals. Now people know us and they see our reviews, or they just know what I do, and I have agents and other investors just bringing me stuff, which is awesome. But the team, you asked about the team. So it's obviously evolved quite a bit, and it's still are actually restructuring a little bit right now. But I've always had some cold callers going. I've always had a texter, and those are usually virtual folks. And then I've got a lead manager, who that position has been both US based and virtual, but I think it's a pretty good virtual one. So right now that seat is a virtual person. And then I have an acquisitions manager. So she actually grew through me. She started out as a lead manager at like $20 an hour. And now she is my acquisitions manager, and she is great. Now she can keep track of she oversees all my acquisitions. So now there are like 3 or 4 sales people that are actually negotiating getting the deals done. And then we have a dispo person, and then we have a TC person. So that's kind of the general structure.
So are they all virtual, or how many of them are in the States, and where are they? Are they in your office? What's your office? Do you have an office?
I love your office.
Yes.
But this is yes. It's all, so it's all virtual wholesaling and doing deals.
All virtual.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they international? How many of them are American?
Yes, my American. So I'll kind of draw the line at lead manager or above lead manager. So again, I look at the lower level. It's like texter, cold callers. And actually, I now have a lot of students who help me out on that too, to get reps and experience. So they start on that level. And then my lead manager is a virtual one, but everybody above that is US based. So my sales guys that are actually my closers, those are also sub 2 people that have kind of grown through, that were like making calls, and I could tell they were ready to go start closing deals. And man, I appreciate those guys so much. But they're now the ones getting the deals under contract. But my acquisition manager, her name's Judith. She manages all those guys. And I'm actually now hiring an underwriter, because we have so many deals that people are bringing us.
Wow.
That it's like, we've got to be able to underwrite them quicker and filter through these and figure out what we're going to take down. And then, my TC and my dispo are also US based, and also people I found through sub 2, which is really cool.
That's nice. How many people are you talking about, including everyone? What's your organization of people?
Yeah. I mean, if you include, which we haven't talked at all about construction, and a lot of those guys are in-house. That's
right. We've just only gone to property management, direct to sales.
Yeah. And then marketing
talk about
too.
The direct to sales.
Direct to seller.
Sellers end. How big is that operation? How many people?
Yeah. So 3 sales guys, acquisition manager, TC, Dispo. I'd say about 10 plus all the lead managers and texters and all that. 10 plus people just running that
Nice.
team. Yeah.
When did you first start it?
It was the end of 2020 is when I first kind of started it. That's when I think when I went through the training is in 2020. And then
Mm-hmm.
2021 was when I really sort of lifted off, started to hire people. And yeah, it's been a very fluid times. Too many people. Sometimes I'm lean. I've also leaned out when interest rates went up. I actually leaned out and I became the number one closer. And I just said, let's get lean and be me and the virtual assistants and let's close deals and see how this plays out.
Okay, before we go to construction, let's back up to property management. How many people do you have there?
Yeah, that one's a very lean team. We have now 2 virtual assistants on the back end. We're looking to bring on a third now that we just bought this other big unit. We do some furnished rentals, both short and medium term. So we have a team lead for that. And she's actually going to most likely move into my property manager position and oversee them all. She's US based. She's also a rock star. So that's really it. So basically we've got 3 to 4 people doing that, but now we also absorbed a couple people in that recent acquisition, but I would say five people on that.
Good job. Good job.
Excellent. We found out a way to stay pretty lean. Yeah.
Yes, it's important, I think. Talk to me about the construction. Tell me about that arm.
Yes. So another one out of sort of necessity, doing a lot of fix and flips, doing a lot of rentals. One of the biggest constraints I saw in Wyoming, and I think could be said about a lot of markets, is there's not enough contractors and not enough competent ones. And I wanted my business to be more predictable. I wanted to keep my cost more lean and be able to keep on timelines. And I was just so worn out from like GCs, like they're working a bunch of other jobs. And I knew the pricing of stuff. The other thing I didn't share much is I had done some house hacks and I had done some of the work and I knew what things costed. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I was just struggling with like the markup. And I was like, well, why don't I just go find somebody who wants a predictable job? And this has actually been a really good model of like, there are a lot of contractors out there who hate payroll, hate the lumpy up and down. Like I got money this week, no money, lots of money, no money, really stressed out. How am I going to make payroll? Like I started looking for those guys who wanted some stability. And yeah, that was it evolved from that. And it also evolved from, I was like, as soon as I have enough rental properties and enough fix and flips going on that I can afford somebody full time, I was going to go find that person. So that's what I did. Started with one. And today we have like 5 full-time. These are like we call our crew managers. Mm-hmm. And then they hire the laborers underneath them. Some of them are 1099. Some are even like full-time with us. But basically 5 guys. That way I can be basically 5 foremen that can be working all our projects all around.
Okay, that's interesting. So you have 5 crew leaders, and then they have it's their job to make sure that the people underneath them are there.
And they do the work. Most of them are doing the work too.
Yeah.
And then I didn't mention, I have a project manager who's also my COO. So he's wearing 2 hats, but and this was me, right? For like the first several years, I was the man managing the GC, managing these team leads. But as I built it out, now I have a project manager who oversees each one of those guys. They talk about budgets weekly. They talk about scope of work. They bid everything. And then but again, the boots on the ground guys, that lead foreman, he's the one managing his little crew in each little job.
Got it. And are these all in Wyoming?
Yes. I do have a one in Montana that's also helping us out and working for us. But yeah, the majority of these guys are in Wyoming, and yeah, we'll plan to spread out from there.
You mentioned Texas a few times. You didn't do any of this in Texas?
I've only just used GCs actually, I did one quick renovation in Texas in Houston, which was really a really fun one too. Actually, I was just sharing it on my social media last week, where I just went and found, again, I'd done this enough times. I'm like, I just asked around and found a contractor, and I'm like, hey, can you do this? Can you bid it? And it was nice because the house was across. This was actually the best flip ever. The house was across the street, so I didn't have to drive or travel to it. I could go check on it whenever I wanted. Like literally my office used to be like, it's a different house, but I could look out my window and I could see everything going on. But you didn't have to live in it. You know what I mean? You got the luxury of seeing it progress. and
Trust
you
me,
can
I
just
have
go
a
walk and see it.
basement that should be fully developed in this house. Okay, this
Mhm.
house is way too big for me. But in the basement, it has a luxury bathroom. It's got a very nice flooring. It's got a kitchen that's a little outdated, but no private entrance, which could be fixed. And it's got lots of space. I hate the idea of it being in the house when I'm up here. I can just see me going, shut up,
Yes.
stop the work. I'm talking to Casey. It's hard when it's in your home. So being across the street is perfect.
Yes. Yep. So that's one I've done in Houston. And we did the old house that I lived in. So I did basically 2 house hacks. And yeah, we're planning to do more in Houston. I'm just getting such better numbers in Wyoming, and that is on the
Yeah.
roadmap. I want to do more fix and flips in Houston. I'm not very excited about buy and hold right now in Houston, just because taxes and insurance are just crushing
Yeah.
deals
Yeah.
in a bad way.
Oh
But
my gosh. All right. So I want to talk about, we're really running here. And yet I have the questions I want to ask are not to, fully asked by any stretch of the imagination. You talk about banks, about small banks. And I like that because, I'm in lending and Chai and Prakash, they talk about getting very close to banks also, although they're dealing with big banks, so that they can get their rates at wholesale, which is pretty rare.
mhm.
But they've been doing it a long time, and I've thought about that and said, "Gee, I don't think I'd ever really be able to want to connect with bankers of that status." I met enough of them at the Harvard Business School. Trust me, I know.
Mhm.
But the smaller banks, I think that is more approachable. So, talk to us about a specific instance where a relationship with a small bank led to a deal that otherwise couldn't have happened.
Oh my gosh, I could give you so many stories, and this is
So
so
many?
such a yeah. I got a really good one though.
Okay, tell me
And
one.
you'll this is I've actually have a full like keynote on this because small banks, like you hit it on the head, Effie. Like building those relationships. If somebody's going to do one thing and they want to build something, that's one of the number of things I would do is don't go talk to JP Morgan, Chase, Wells Fargo, or all them. Go find your local bank and go meet them, right? Find the guy who does construction loans, get to know that guy. Cause that's how I built my portfolio is I got to know them. That first deal, the second one, sorry, I got a construction loan. I got to know that guy. And that's the story. So we bought because I have these 5 C's and I'll just give it to you. We won't go into detail, but it's
Okay.
character. The bank, these small banks want to know your character. They want to know the cash flow. They want to know the cash you have. They want to know the collateral. The collateral is like what is securing the investment. All right.
Hmm.
And then they
Hmm.
want to know conditions, like what are market conditions? Those are kind of the 5 factors that they look at. And this guy, his name's Kent Wood. He's the one who shared this with me. And but anyway, Kent,
He
we
taught you that? He
yeah,
told you point blank, this is what we're looking for?
oh yeah. Like I had him actually on a panel. I had another little tip is go take a banker to lunch or let them take you to lunch, however you want to do it. But just go. That's how I learned all this. I have a degree in petroleum engineering and math and chemistry, no financial stuff. I learned all this from going to lunch with banks, understanding how their world works. And now when I go present a deal, I know what they're looking for, right? Like I've asked good
That's
questions.
genius. That's
Yes.
awesome. The
Yep.
large ones wouldn't, they'd say, hey, those are our trade secrets.
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah. And they
That's
have
awesome.
if they even understood, right? But the local
Yeah.
decision makers talk to them. So this guy Kent, this is the good story, and I'll kind of keep it short. But Kent, I did that first one with him. I was buying the next one, I think, maybe 2 or 3 later. It's that threeplex I told you. The next threeplex I bought. This was actually supposed to be a duplex, and it was a really good. The numbers were amazing. It was going to be one where I could do the burr strategy, where I could buy it for 180, put in. Sorry, bought it for 100, put in 80K. So I'm all in at 180. ARV is about 250. So when I'm done,
Nice.
I should be able to refinance, get all my money back out. And it's
Yep.
a duplex. It's going to cash flow crazy. Well, problem was we didn't do a good enough job on inspections. And when we went and when we gutted this thing and my contractor was ready to start putting it back together, he's like, Casey, the framing is so bad on this. Like we had to
Oh,
call out the city and the city's like, this is condemned. You guys have to tear this thing down. And we were like, oh. So
Oh,
my
geez.
loan, yeah. So that was one of the most challenging, scary conversations I ever had to make, or calls I had to make, was to my bank. So it's to Kent. Kent, the same guy who's done a couple deals with me. I'm like, oh man, where do I even start? So luckily I called another guy who used to work with him. And I'm like, his name is Jesse. And I called Jesse. I'm Jesse, here's the situation. How should I best proceed? And he's like, Casey, call him and be honest, tell him where you're at. And the thing is, he's got to kind of work with you. Like, you didn't purposely do this, and just don't give up and keep moving forward. So that's what I did. I call Kent. I'm like, Kent, I got bad news, but I want to figure this out, and I want to put this back together. So we went back to the drawing board, got new plans. We ended up doing new construction, did a 3-unit, and today, one of my best assets we have, right? It's like, and I couldn't see it at the time. And this is, I mean, Pace and Jamil, they talk about this like zooming out, right? At that time, I was so stressed. I'm like, how am I going to come up with $100,000 for the down payment because it's now a $400,000 to $500,000 project. Like, where am I going to come up with $100K? And how am I going to do this? I've never done new construction, but thankfully that bank, Kent, worked with me. He's like, all right, Casey, let's do it. And he helped me. Like, he was really nice. One spot he helped me was, typically you got to have all your money come in first, your 25%, and then the bank will start putting in money after. He was really good to me. He's like, hey, I don't mind getting you going, basically advancing you some of your construction budget so you can get going, right? And then you can bring your money at the end. And that kind of helped me, gave me some time and gap. I was super thankful. And here's where this all ties in is we get it done. I was going to tell you another part. We actually poured 2 foundations on this house. We poured it once in the middle of winter, and it did not pass code. We had to rip it out,
Oh, gee.
re-pour it.
I'm sorry. That must have been a little stressful.
Yes. I'm just saying, all these hurdles, right? And the bank's seen it the whole time. And anyway, I'll never forget Ken. He sent me a picture. He's like, going vertical, Casey. We're actually framing, and he was pumped. But anyway, so this is where it all comes to a head. And I'll never, ever forget this conversation. We're all done, and I'm visiting Laramie, and I go up, and I always would go touch base, like build relationships, right? Get to know these people. I would always go check in with them. And I'm sitting up in his office downtown Laramie, right next to Kent, and I'm thanking him and for getting to the end. He's like, Casey, I want to thank you. He goes, a lot of borrowers would have just, when that happened, they would have gave up. They would have thrown in the towel. We would have had to take that property back. It would have been a mess, but you didn't give up. You went forward and you finished it. He's like, and now, Casey, when I go to the board on your next deal, I can be like, hey, guys, remember, this is Casey. He's the guy that finished that deal when he could have given up. He finished it, and he did what he said he was going to do. He's like, that means so much to me personally because my neck was on the line, but it's going to pay back in spades for you over time. So
That's a very good point. Banks aren't in the business of owning the houses. They don't want to have to take them over, especially if you couldn't succeed in it. Who are they going to convince to take it over? So, yeah, I can see, especially with a small bank, how important that would be. That's awesome. Very nice indeed. Very nice. All right. So I have a couple of more questions I want to ask. And one of them has to do about business credit cards and also what is Bighorn Capital Fund Management. There's so much.
I got time. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Talk to me, because I had heard that you talk about using 0% on business credit cards as a funding tool. And what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see on that? Because I'm going to say I was speaking with a lender who thought this would be a great idea for lending. And she had, I think it was 130,000 on Amex, 0%. She loaned it out. And then they said, oh, sorry, we're calling it. And we're putting it in at, 28%. And
wow.
She almost gave birth to a cow. She was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. Where am I going to come up with this money and this, that, the other thing? And I was like, oh, yeah, I've always thought 0% is good, but I've always worried and wondered. And I was like, can they do that? And then other people were saying, oh yeah, Amex is doing it. I'm like, oh shit. I mean, I don't haven't pursued that strategy, but I want to hear about it and see what do you think is the biggest mistake that our strategy that new people make. Talk about that and then explain your fund manager.
Yes. So first off, I would not let that scare people away, because that a lot of people are going to hear that story, Effie, and be like, "Why? I'm never going to touch that. That sounds terrible." But there's more to that. I'm guessing she violated something in the terms, because they do have all these terms in there. Like I've seen it if like you're late on a payment or something, she did something against their agreement, right? And that's typically what can trigger that. But I've had really good success with it. So I use both Chase and Amex.
Mhm.
I like
Oh,
Chase's.
interesting.
Check this out. This is one of the cool things about Chase is, and I started doing this several years ago. So I initially did this when I had a business and an LLC. So if you have an LLC, you can go get a business credit card through Chase. And I would always recommend starting with Chase. That's what I do, and that's who I recommend. And I'm happy to help anyone who wants to get started, because I actually have a guy who, rather than just, because you can just do this online, but I have a guy who will do it, and he'll process it and do like a manual DocuSign application, which can help your probability of a higher limit and also
Oh,
higher probability of being approved.
good to know.
So, yeah. So typically Chase are 12 months, 0%. And what you do, so the biggest thing you got to be careful of is if you go get 100K, but realistically, most people are going to get maybe approved for 20 or 30 on their first card.
Hmm.
And we can do credit card stacking. I can talk about that later, but let's just keep it simple for now. Just one card, you get 30K, and I think that's a great idea to go out there and lend that for EMD, short-term lending. It's a great strategy. But you got to make sure, like, what is your backup plan in the 12 months? Because if you can maximize that and work it for 12 months at 0%, it's free money, right? But you got to be able to pay that back in 12 months. So you got to just have a business plan or some sort of backup plan. If your guy defaults or doesn't pay you back, or he's 2 months late, we all know that happens, right? So
Yeah.
have some way to pay it, because that's where you're going to get hung up. If you get hung up, but you can still survive it, right? Let's say that you don't have a backup, but he's a couple months late. Like, they don't just slap on, it just starts being 24% from that time or whatever the rate is. Okay. But if you play this right, check this little hack out. You do this for 12 months, you pay it back. All right. So now you got 30K available. Then you go apply for a new card. All right. When you apply for that new card, let's say you get approved for 20. Okay. You keep the same card. It's paid off. This will blow your mind, Effie. All you have to do is call Chase. Like, call him up on the phone and say, "Hey, I want to transfer card one." I always like to actually pull out my cards usually when I do this, but here we go. So credit card.
Is the second card with Chase or another bank?
Yeah. 2 Chase cards, right? Here's a couple Chase ones.
Okay.
So I
All right.
take credit card.
Wait, hide those numbers, brother.
Yes, exactly. Here we go. All right, I'll put the back. Here we go.
Good.
So credit card one had 30K. I used it for a year, and then I paid it off because it's no longer useful, because I'm paying. I mean, you could still use it,
Yeah.
but it's not 0%. So I go open credit card two for 20K. Then I call Chase and say, "Hey, I want 30K from this card moved over the available credit line, move it over to here." So now I have 50K available at 12% or at 0% for another 12 months. Like, literally, they'll do that for free.
At zero? They do it at
Yes.
zero?
And you move it. Yeah, you're just moving credit over to that one. So I do this every 12 months, and I kick them around, kick them down the road. And as long as you're able to pay that off, like last year I had 160,000 on one Chase credit card that I kept doing this on for 0%.
Okay, that, ladies and gentlemen, brings you a lot of value right there and there, then and there. That's awesome. I didn't know that you could actually transfer it and they would give you the new rate. That's
It
good.
is. It is so. I'm like, why would they do that? But you think about it, at the end of the day, they're making money on, well, all the people who can't pay it off in 12 months, which we're telling you not to do that. Don't be that person. And then they make all the money on the fees. They make like whatever, 2.9%.
Yeah.
So they're happy to issue out good credit to good borrowers, you know?
Okay, so Chase and Amex is a go. All right.
Yeah. And Amex could do, I haven't been able to transfer lines like that in Amex, but the last thing is the card stacking, right? If you really want to get a bunch of money right away and you have good credit, go use one of those companies. Like, I've used Fund and Grow. There's lots of companies that do this, but they'll go Fund and Grow, fund with the D, Fund, Fund and Grow. And I'll happily share a link with you guys and get you guys hooked up. But Fund and Grow, I use them. I paid about $3,500 and they got me approved. So this is really good if you have pretty good credit, and you have like a little bit of a business credit. I don't necessarily think you need years of it. If you just have an LLC and if you've been using credit cards and you've got some credit history and good credit, what you'll do is you'll go pay them $3,500 and they'll get you approved for, they'll say between 100 to 250,000 over about a year at 0%. So if they can do what they say they do, you're paying $3,500 a fee for them to go do it, because they're really good at, they're going to go apply for like 3 cards at once or 4 of them. And then they're going to basically scrub your credit, get all the inquiries removed, and they're going to do it again in 3 months and again in 3 months. And they just keep stacking up these credit lines, and they do all the work, right? They know like you could do this yourself if you want to figure it out, but they're like a turnkey system to go get you a bunch of 0%. So if you really want to like lend out a lot of money, I would look at a company like that.
Believe it or not, lending out the money isn't the problem. Right now, I've refocused and I'm doing transactional funding, double closes only, and seller carrybacks. Those 2, no EMD, just those 2. The funding isn't the problem. I've got to find the source of the deals. I need wholesalers who do a lot in states where they aren't allowed to do them, so they have to do double closes, or investors that do a lot of buying and they want seller carryback. So those are the 2 that I need to identify.
Interesting.
And so the actual amount isn't that big a problem for me. It will be at some point, but right now I've got more than enough. It's the getting the deals in.
Yes, that makes sense. Another thing, Effie, to add to that, or add to the credit cards, is because you asked like, what do you need to watch out for? There is if you are literally just taking it and lending it out as cash, there is the cash conversion fee, or they call it like a cash advance.
Oh yeah.
So you're going to pay about 4% to do that. And that might have been an issue with that person's Amex card. But here's my hack on that and this is actually Revive Club. So I have a fractional offering where we're doing this because I'm doing so many fix and flips. Think about all the things you can put on a credit card. Like I pay all my materials, right? Even my subcontractors, even general contractors, like pretty much everything other than your loan payment, and your down payment on a fix and flip, you can put on a credit card. So what I've been able to do, not your down payment. Yeah. Sorry. You can't really do a down payment or like your loan. I mean, you would have to get creative.
You'd have to take it as cash. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
I just thought that's what you said.
Yes.
So you're putting everything on there, and are you going to say you get points and it saves you money?
Yeah. So that's one. But what I'm doing is, like my Revive, so I have Revive Club. That's my fractional offering that actually is still open. So when people listen to this, we still have a couple spots potentially, but don't wait. But what we're doing is I'm partnering with other people who want to get into fix and flips. They can come into Revive Club. And what we do is we go use my Chase contact. Well, first off, you got to invest a minimum of $10,000. All right. But and I don't want to we can go as far into the weeds as you want. Right. But what we're doing is, in addition to the $1 million we're raising, we're going to go get business credit cards in the Revive Club LLC. Right. So here's the cool thing. All you have to do is be on the LLC agreement in order to get one of these Chase business credit cards. Okay. Ooh. So what we're doing is each one of my fractional members of this LLC can go apply for their own credit card. And then we can go use these credit cards on our fix and flips to pay for materials. Now we don't have to go convert it and pay that 4%, right? And there's plenty of stuff we can use it on that. So it's a really cool strategy that I'm helping people with that join the club. Is like, not only we're going to make a modest return, but it's more so you're going to get in and do fix and flips with me, get the experience, but also you're going to get that experience. And like, basically I'm going to introduce you to my Chase guy. We're going to get you guys, everyone approved for as much as we can, and then be able to use the card. And it'll just be for the LLC, right? It's not some people are like, oh, you're going to get me a business credit card and I can do my own thing. It's like, no, but you could do that. Like right now we're going to invest in our deals in the Revive Club, but it's a 2-year deal. But after that, you're going to build your business credit to where now you could do back to my little credit card thing, at the end of 2 years, there should be either way. You're going to build up your business credit card to go get your own for your own LLC. Because my hope is these people, they can go do their own fix and flips and be able to do what I'm doing.
Exactly. I love it. I love it. That's so good. You haven't explained the fund yet, but you've interjected with the Revive Club and fractional. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, now we're going to go over an hour a little bit, but if you could, I'd like you to describe, what for those of you who don't know about fractional, go find out about it. But because it's a great concept, I love Stella, I love everything they're doing. But talk to me a little bit about the Revive Club, and then I have to touch on, Bighorn Capital Fund Management before we end this.
Yes, perfect. Well, they tie, I could tie that together real easy for you. So the Revive Club, you know what? Let's go Bighorn Capital, then I'll come back to Revive Club. So Bighorn Capital is my accredited fund. So in order to invest in this, you have to be accredited. And you guys can Google that, or I can explain it, but you have to be accredited. And I have several different offerings, but my minimum, the lowest I currently have, and this could change, but it's $50,000 minimum. So it's a great opportunity if you're accredited and you want to put more money to work. I have several different offerings. I have a debt fund that's just a fixed 10 to 12%. You're basically going to be a hard money lender on all of my deals.
Yep.
Right. And then I have an equity one where we're buying multifamily, and we're also doing some fix and flip, which that kicks off a little bit more cash for the distributions.
Okay.
That one's actually a 14% preferred, which is higher than most. And then you also get the equity, the profit share upside. Okay. It's an 80-20 after that.
And how long are they going to be in that one?
That's a longer. So it's a 5-year hold on that one. So I'm looking for people who want.
What's the minimum there?
50,000.
Nice.
Yep. So a couple different offerings. One we just wrapped up was it was really good. We did a 15% debt one on a multifamily that I've done, but that one's filled up and going really well. But here's the cool thing. So Bighorn Capital, it's called a customizable fund. So I gave you like 3 different offerings, right?
Yes.
Each one of my investors gets a K1 from Bighorn Capital, but they can be in different offerings, and they can actually do both. I've had some people do part in the one I just told you about that's full at 15%, and they're also doing my equity one, or they're also doing my debt. And you could pick and choose which ones you want, but they're all through my fund, and everyone gets the same K1, and it's just it's a very efficient way for me to raise capital.
That's nice. It's also
from accredited.
For them.
Yeah.
Yeah, from an accredited. Yes, it's nice if you're only dealing with one K1. It helps.
Yes. Yep.
Nice. So that's accredited. Do you have for unaccredited? Yes, you do, because you said you have a minimum of a $10,000 investment. Talk about that one.
Bingo. So now the Revive Club fractional will make more sense, because I love raising capital through Bighorn Capital. Like, that's going to help me take down the bigger deals. But there's so many people in the sub 2 community and in other communities that are like, well, I didn't mention this yet, but which I should now, is my personal Mount Everest is to help 100 families achieve financial freedom. And eventually we're going to redo that and set it way higher. But right now my immediate goal is 100 families. But a lot of these families that I'm working with and helping, that a lot of them are actually coming to my workshop, which we're doing this weekend. But these people, they're not accredited yet, or they don't have 50,000 ready. Right. And to this point, until I met Stella and fractional, I had no way to work with them. I mean, I could put them on like a fix and flip, but I couldn't put more than one person. So what I love about
meeting Stella, and prior to having this as a solution, helping 100 families would take your lifetime, because it's so restricted.
That's exactly right.
But now that you have an option to do, fractional, and now you can start to educate them, groom them, answer their questions, encourage them, push them.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. So that's what we started. Now
you'll be able to do more than 100 for sure.
Exactly. Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, we have right now, as it sits, we have almost 50 people in our Revive Club right now. And we've got a little bit more room for a couple more. So that was my solution to working with the unaccredited investors, or accredited, doesn't matter, but I could work. Our minimum is 10K. So that was the offering to get in there. It's a shorter time frame. It's about 2 years, and Yeah, you hit it on the head, Effie. You summarized it. It's like a great way to where I can work with everyone and help more people. Because again, we've been in great communities, right, Effie? We had great
Yep.
mentors with Pace and other people, and so many people have given to us. It's just really cool to be able to help give to others, right, and help other people come in and partner with me and learn how we do it,
And
learn how
more
we
than
fix it.
likely, if they are in Revive and they're in there for 2 years, by the time the 2 years rolls around, they may be in a position to be able to get closer to giving up their W 2 or to, growing so
Yeah.
that, you know, um, they can turn around and help other people and they
Hmm.
can work with you in a different capacity.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so this is not going to air before this weekend, as you know. So, very briefly, just tell people how they can reach out in regards to Revive or the accredited funds, because even though maybe that'll be filled by the time they see it, you're more than likely going to have other opportunities. So, if you don't mind, take a moment to explain exactly where they can reach out to you. And I will say that because I didn't mention it yet, I don't think. Casey has his own YouTube channel. You should check it out. There's a lot to learn. And I sometimes people say, "Why do you have other people who do YouTube?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? This is a blue ocean, man. We need as
Mhm.
much help as we can get."
Yes.
So definitely check out his YouTube. How do you prefer they reach out to you?
Yes. So a couple things here. If you guys, well, just reaching out, let's start there. I appreciate what you shared about the YouTube. I share a ton on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook. They're obviously linked. So just at Casey Gregersen on YouTube, same thing on Instagram and Facebook. If you guys spell my name, you'll find me. Right. So I encourage anyone to go, especially on Facebook or Instagram. And if you guys still don't, you know what? I tell you what, if you guys don't have that, if you're not on social media and you still have a question, I'm going to give you my cell phone. So it's 307-317-2494. So if you guys, again, 307-317-2494. So if you guys aren't on social media, reach out there. But if you're on social media, please, I would love to connect with you guys because I share a ton of, you guys can see I get pretty lit up and I love speaking and helping. So please do reach out, ask me your question. But as far as the events, I'll go there next. You guys could just go to my website. Again, pretty easy, caseygregersen.com. And if you can go find our events, you can do /events and you can find our next workshop. So again, this won't air by the time we do our workshop this weekend, but you guys can actually go to it and you guys can see all the awesome things we did because we're going to be doing another one of those in 3 to 4 months. And at that point, we'll have the next date for our next workshop. So if you guys want to attend that, you'll have a link there. And then also you'll be able to see Revive Club on that website and you'll be able to hear if we've still got some options. But you know what? Like I said, if you have any questions on how to find this, just text me or go message me on Instagram.
I love it. I love it. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've got so many different opportunities to reach out, and I have asked about half the questions I wanted. So I think I have to just ask one more. Casey, would you be a dear and come back at some
Absolutely.
point?
Absolutely. We can go through the rest of the questions. I would love to.
Yes, yes. I'd like to do an update in half a year or whatever, so that because your clarity is palatable, and I think that that goes a long way in creating success. And I love the fact that we actually have some similarities. I understand it here, even though we haven't met all that much yet. So I would love to be able to see your progress as you go along and to open up doors to other people.
Yes. Yep. Last one I don't want to share. I didn't
Okay.
mention this earlier. With the 2-day workshop, again, if
Mhm.
you guys won't be able to come this weekend, but there'll be future ones. This is probably half the reason. Well, I'm usually pretty amped and excited, but I'm especially amped because we're actually doing our walkthrough right after this, and then we're going to be starting tomorrow. But what we're doing is it's all about building your 10-year vision, and like because everyone's financial freedom is different, right? It looks different, and it's like how do you even start to quantify helping 100 families achieve financial freedom? Well, it starts with our 2-day workshop, and we're digging into setting your 10-year vision, and we've got a lot of cool speakers to kind of help you like inspire you and get around the right people so you can really think about that vision. But we've also got some cool AI tools to help you build it out. But our goal out of this 2-day workshop, and again, we'll have another one, is build out that 10-year vision and know the exact things you need to do over the next 90 days. Again, over the next 90 days, what you need to do to start to move the needle toward that 10-year vision. So I've talked a lot today, but I wanted to give somebody something specific that they could think about. Wait, how do I actually accomplish that? And that's how we're helping our 100 families do it.
I think that's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right, everyone. I'd like to say thank you very much, and we shall see you next time on What the Effie. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Effie.